Go. Hi, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you today. And I want to thank the organizers at Tissue World for the opportunity to present this virtual presentation to you. My name is Jason Metnick. I am Senior Vice President of Customer Affairs at the Sustainable Forestry Initiative. I'm excited about this opportunity to talk about responsible sourcing and sustainable forestry and how that relates to tissue products. As you can see, SFI as an organization, we've been around for 25 years. We believe in better choices for the planet. We've evolved quite a bit in those 25 years, and I'm going to talk about who SFI is as an organization today. And so thank you again for the opportunity to present. SFI is governed by an independent board of directors. We're made up of 18-member board of directors representing an economic, environmental, as well as social interests. You can see some well-known groups on the SFI board who represent the environmental sector, groups like Ducks Unlimited, American Forests, as well as Arbor Day Foundation. Also on the social side, we have landowners, small landowners, as well as government agencies, tribal councils, as well as labor organizations. And then on the economic side, organizations like Green Blue, as well as forest product landowners, as well as forest product companies. Irving, as you can see, is a board member of SFI, and as you know, they produce and manufacture a lot of tissue products. Forests provide us with many benefits. They provide us with clean water. They sequester carbon, habitat for wildlife. It's a renewable resource. They provide that human health and well-being, as well as employment for local communities. There's so many other factors and benefits that forests provide as well. And so it's critical that we conserve these important habitats and this important resource for future generations. That's why SFI, we believe in a world that values and benefits from sustainably managed forests. And we go about that vision through our mission, which is to advance sustainability through forest-focused collaborations. The forest-focused collaborations is critical to this mission at SFI. We know that we can't do it alone. We have to work together to find these critical solutions to ensure the sustainability of our planet. We know people and organizations, individuals, brands, they're not just looking to limit the negative impact, but they want to do more good. They want to ensure that they're making positive contributions to the health of the planet. At SFI, we believe that we are well positioned to provide a lot of those solutions to these pressing sustainability issues that face us today, whether it's habitat recovery or clean water, or looking at wildfire and carbon mitigation strategies, or packaging strategies, or economic development in communities. We believe SFI, as a sustainability leader, is well positioned to provide these forest-focused collaborations for ensuring the sustainability for future generations. SFI is organized into 4 key pillars of work. Most people, they know SFI for our environmental standards, and I'll go through that in more detail, but it's also important to know that SFI is focused on conservation impact work and conservation research, environmental education, as well as community engagement, and really making those connections between those forest communities and the responsibility of sustainable forestry in those forest communities, and how we can ensure further growth and further success in those communities. SFI operates 3 different environmental standards. We have a forest management standard, a fiber sourcing standard, as well as a chain of custody standard. The forest management standard is for any landowner or manager who owns or manages forest lands. And this standard really sets the performance metrics for how that landowner has to manage their lands in a responsible way. Reforestation, protection of biodiversity, looking at water quality issues and soil, indigenous peoples' rights and recognition, as well as other issues of concern specific to forest management. The fiber sourcing standard is another standard that's designed for manufacturers who may source directly from the forest, but they may not own that forest land. And so those requirements in the fiber sourcing standard are set in place to ensure that they're sourcing fiber from responsible sources. And that standard lays out specifically how they have to educate the landowner that they're sourcing the fiber from about the benefits of responsible forestry. They have to use trained loggers to ensure that loggers, when they're out there harvesting the fiber, that they know that they're looking for streamside buffer zones and threatened and endangered species, so that indirectly you can make a difference on that additional fiber supply area. And then finally, chain of custody. And chain of custody, when it comes down to it, it's just an accounting system audit. It's understanding how much of your fiber might be coming from these certified lands, how much might be coming from recycled content, how much might be coming from non-certified lands, and then being able to make accurate statements based off of the input that you know of where your fiber comes from. That, again, is another standard under SFI's three standards that we run and operate. I mentioned this in passing, but SFI's forest management standards, as well as our fiber sourcing standard, address key sustainability topics, whether it's climate change, biodiversity, water quantity and quality, indigenous peoples' rights, logger training, as well as avoidance of controversial sources. We believe that these are key areas and key themes that we need to address through the standards to really allow that credibility to continue to manage those lands in a responsible way. And we believe, again, that the SFI standards address these key topics in a meaningful way. It's not just private industry that uses our standard. We also see government agencies in both the U.S. as well as Canada. University lands use it as teaching opportunities. Indigenous landowners, there's over 40 different indigenous tribes and land managers that are certified to the SFI forest management standard. Also, conservation lands, groups like the Conservation Fund are certified to the SFI forest management standard. And so we do see a strong diversity of the types of organizations, types of landowners that are certified to our standard. We continue to see incredible growth of lands that are certified to our standard. Over 375 million acres, or 150 million hectares, are certified to the SFI forest management standard, and we continue to see that growth year after year. This ensures a steady supply of sustainable product in the marketplace as well. All of our standards require for that company to make a claim or use a label, you have to be third-party certified to one of these accredited certification bodies. These certification bodies, like I mentioned, they all are accredited, and they all can provide competent and credible audits to our standards. This is a key component and key aspect to, again, ensure credibility through our standards and through how companies are implementing our standards in a credible and meaningful way. SFI also has a large international scope. While our forest management standard only applies in the U.S. and Canada, if you look at all the lands that are certified globally, SFI represents about 25% of all those lands. And so even though our forest management standard is the U.S. and Canada, we have a big international footprint as well. We're also endorsed by the Program for the Endorsement of Forest Certification. PEFC is an important international umbrella program that helps facilitate the recognition of credible certifications across the globe. This is, again, an important recognition for SFI and one that we continue to be strong supporters of. Within the PEFC community, SFI represents about 46% of all PEFC certifications worldwide. From the very beginning, when SFI was created 25 years ago, SFI knew that it was important to ensure that forest research was a core component of the SFI standards. that's why we built into to our standards a requirement that certified organizations have to contribute and have to invest directly in forest-related research. As you can see, since 1995, certified companies have directly invested nearly $1.8 billion in forest research. And just last year, you can see $57 million was invested in forest research. 70% of these investments are directly related and linked to conservation-related objectives. And so this, again, is a core component to not just ensure that we have the strong data today, but that we have strong data in the future as well to ensure what we're doing in the future is still the right approach from a science-based objective. Taking that forest research that SFI has been a part of since 1995 and requiring our certified organizations to directly invest in, we wanted to understand more what we could do. And about 5 years ago, we started to look at what is the true conservation impact of SFI, and how can we truly measure the impact our standard has when it comes to water, biodiversity, and carbon. We know brand owners want to understand the impact of their sourcing. We also know that the organization certified to our standard, they need to justify that cost of certification. We know conservation stakeholders want to better understand the value that forest certification brings. And we believe that all of this will help improve the understanding and facilitate continual improvement throughout SFI. We've got about 25 or so different projects right now that have either been completed, in process, or just getting started that dive deeper into each of these three topics of water, biodiversity, and carbon. And all this information can be found on our website at forest.org. I believe that this is a true game changer to not just show that a company is certified, but actually show what the impact is that our standard has on the ground. And this is really going to be important as we move into the future with how we define sustainable forestry. From a community standpoint, communities rely on forests for jobs, economic development, recreational benefits, as well as human health. And so what we try to do is we try to make those connections in those forest-based communities on the importance of sustainable forestry. Training loggers is critical to ensure that that additional fiber that enters a product is coming from a responsible forest. When SFI first started our work back in 1995, we did a survey and found that about 34% of loggers who are delivering wood directly to those manufacturers that make tissue products or packaging products or paper products or solid wood products, about 34% were actually trained to really understand water quality issues and biodiversity and sustainable forest practices. So we built within our standard requirements that you have to use trained loggers when delivering wood to these mills. We now know that about 96% of the fiber that's delivered to these mills come from trained loggers that, again, understand water quality and biodiversity and sustainable forestry. This in itself is an incredible achievement because we are now ensuring that the entire wood and fiber supply area is being impacted in a positive way through this logger training program. We also are proudly working and partnering with over 120 Indigenous communities across the U.S. and Canada. I mentioned about 40 are certified to our forest management standard, but we're also partnering and working in other communities and other areas to again further this relationship and further the involvement with Indigenous communities. And then finally, building the next generation of leaders and how we can do that again in a meaningful way. We know that this next generation, they're going to take responsibility for solving some of these pressing challenges. And so the market needs to really invest in a society that can make those connections to environmental education and the conservation of our natural world. We do that through two different programs. One is Project Learning Tree, which is a program here in the United States, and one is Project Learning Tree Canada. We acquired Project Learning Tree in 2017. It's about a 40-year-old program that focuses on ensuring that curriculum is taught and educators have that curriculum to be able to teach it to their students in classrooms and other environments and be able to provide that as part of their core curriculum. That's, again, a successful environmental education program that is having a difference in these communities and helping to teach environmental education. Project Learning Tree Canada as well is a program, and that's really focused on how can we ensure that people entering the workforce are going into green jobs, whether it's a biologist or a conservation scientist or a forester, and how can we make those connections? And so we're really focused on green job placement within Project Learning Tree Canada. PLT in the U.S., it really uses trees as a forest, as windows on the world. About 50% or more of the teachings within the curriculum are outside. And so, again, we really want to get kids outside to understand environmental education. Just last year, we reached about 3 million students through our curriculum through the Project Learning Tree. So if you step back and look at all of SFI, from our standards to our conservation, to our community, to our environmental education work, what this means at the end of the day is SFI isn't just a check mark when you see the label on a product. And we know this directly through research that has recently been conducted by Shelton Group. 52% of consumers surveyed in their research who have heard of SFI trust SFI. 90% of those consumers said that they trust SFI. They also say that third-party certifications are more trusted than large corporations. That means when you use the label, you help build trust between brands and consumers. But it's not just that check mark that the product came from a responsible forest. With SFI, you're also getting all the conservation work, all the environmental education, and all the community engagement as well. And so it really, truly is a holistic package when looking at the true impact SFI is having, again, to these pressing sustainability challenges that we face every day. We have the scale. We have the land certified, 375 million acres, about $1.8 billion in forest research since 1995. These local communities throughout the U.S. and Canada, 34 of them, who are providing logger training opportunities, working with Indigenous peoples as well. And then finally, in environmental education, over 140 million students have been reached since PLT US began about 40 years ago. So we do have scale, we do have impact to make a true difference on the ground to further our mission and our vision at SFI. And so with that, I thank you. You can reach me at jason.metnick@forest.org. I'm happy to answer any of your questions, and so please do reach out. And if you want to visit our website as well for more information about any of the topics that I discussed today, please go to forest.org. Thank you very much.